being bigger than ourselves. And so with that, I am excited to hear what Michael has to say about really including how sustainability can really be a fifth dimension for Conscious Cap. And with that, Michael, I will mute and turn it over to you.
Okay, awesome. Wow, Jennifer, you're so sweet. Thanks for your kind words. And it's fun to be here with many of my Conscious Capitalism friends. Some of you I've known quite a while, and indeed we're friends. Others I don't, but hope to, because I like hanging out with this crew in Dallas. So that's great. And also invited a few far-flung friends who are here. So we're glad to have them here with us. So I'm drinking out of this tea mug today. This is intentional. So this is what I want us to all do while we're sitting here today is let's think. And I'm not here to lecture. This is not that class you had at university. I'm not that person. And so I want to just throw some things out that'll get us talking about sustainability and that stakeholder in our world, in our community, whether it's business or whatever aspect of our life. So by the way, I wanted to play, I don't know, I came up with this idea of the fifth dimension of conscious capitalism. And can y'all hear this song? Can't hear it. Okay. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. I was playing The Age of Aquarius by The Fifth Dimension. Okay. Raise your hand if you remember the fifth dimension. Because, yeah, okay, good. Thank you. I was worried that I was the only one here, but I knew I wouldn't be. All right. So let me put this, let me share my screen and we're going to walk through some stuff. And let's make it super interactive. I mean, if you guys don't want to mute, raise your hand, however you want to do it as we go through this. Let's stop and talk and share and question and whatever. Okay. So I want it to be more like that, a little more challenging in Zoom, but we can do it. So however you guys want to participate, I'm definitely going to be inviting that as we go through this. So let me.
That sounds great.
Right on. Okay. Hopefully y'all are now seeing some slides, and let me go to presentation mode here. Okay. So as we've already discussed, this is what I've been thinking about for quite a long time, and I really appreciate Jennifer and Brian and everybody that whoever decides what we do in our chapter, but I'm grateful to be here today to do this and get this conversation going. Those who've been around the Dallas chapter know that I've been saying, when can we talk more about sustainability? And so, yay, we're here. Persistence pays. And, we got a lot going on. So I get it's not always, just because it's my priority doesn't make it everybody's priority. So, but here we are today. So let's talk through this and share all kinds of fun information and perspectives. And first of all, let's talk about what this is. And so Michael Martin words that come to mind when I think about sustainability are these, and but that's not the dictionary. The dictionary has these things from Oxford, which I think is very interesting. The two things that popped out when I looked it up was maintaining economic growth or economic success, and then balancing that with the environment, with ecological balance, avoiding depletion. So yeah, great. Let's succeed in our business. Let's do what we need to do to take care of our people, our products, our customer, our services, and all those stakeholders, but also the stakeholder of the natural resources, because every business and each human impacts the natural resources. They're part of our world and part of us. Some other stuff on terms. I also tend to use these interchangeably in the work I do in commercial solar, which I've been doing since 2010. So I've been hanging around this space for a while, since it was really nerdy in 2010. Like people don't, what the hell is solar? It's so cool now. Now everybody kind of gets what solar is. So we've moved past square one. It's really fun. So terms, I try and go with how anybody I'm sitting with wants to talk, what other kind of language they want to use, whether it's regeneration or environment or sustainability, climate. I don't care. To me, it's just all kind of the same squishy stuff. And so I don't get hung up on terms. I don't want to be dogmatic about that. I like some more than others, perhaps, but it doesn't matter. And then there's this idea of these concepts around sustainability or environmentalism or regeneration or whatever language you're more comfortable with. We've heard about all these R, especially the first three, right? reduce, reuse, recycle, refuse. I love that one. Like, just say no. My family cracks up. I'm the king of this. We'll go to some place and we'll get takeout stuff and they'll bring us all this stuff. I just want a little box for my food, and they bring us, and I just give it all back to them. Like, no, thank you. But for this time together, we've got another hour and 15 minutes. Let's all think. Let's all rethink. Like the slide says, like the mug says, because that's what this is all about, is getting more conscious. And then repairing, I think, is also something I want to touch on. And then the other thing in terms of how I go about my life as a sustainability weirdo, environmental weirdo, as I call myself, is waste and pollution is what I like to talk about a lot, because that's really the problem. It doesn't have to be called greenhouse gas emissions or some other term of science or art. It's just waste and pollution, because I'll sit down with people and go, okay, if you like waste and pollution, raise your hand, right? And no hands go up. So it's a great way to kind of ground everybody and get together, right? Okay, let's talk about that and what we can do about it, because it's everywhere. That's the other thing. And I'll come back to that. So, okay, here's our happy places, conscious capitalists, right? The 4 tenets or pillars or values or principles. It's funny, you often read that as pillars, yet they don't look like pillars, do they? I don't know. They got to redo the graphics. So let's go with tenets today. And there they are, the happy place for we conscious capitalists. And of course, the Bibles that, and here's mine close at hand, recently consulted quite a bit for this conversation today, written by our own John Mackey and Raj Sisodia, who really are, kind of the real leaders and founders, creators of what we're all a part of now. And so today, let's add in sustainability. And again, how this ultimately goes as a part of, as a 5th tenet, 5th dimension, the foundation. I don't know. Somebody else will figure that out, but it needs to be, in my view, and this conversation today is about how do we get it more into the conversation in what we're doing every day in our work. So that's the kind of framing of where we've been historically with conscious capitalism, which is what, like 20 now, I think, officially. I don't remember the official year conscious capitalism started, but let's call it 2 decades. So, and now here's where I got some things to throw out. I'd like to get y'all thinking and talking. Let's talk collectively here about blind spots, because we all have them, and every business has them, and every strategy has them, and every, plan has them. And so, the purpose that, we're all very comfortable with, kind of, to me, the starting place for conscious capitalism. It's easy to have a mission, a purpose, a desire, something you want to create, manifest, bring to the world. But it's pretty complicated to think about how's that going to affect really everybody. Who is everybody and everything affected by this? That's a big thing to conceive and think about and get your arms around. And then there's the whole notion of unintended consequences. And that's something I would love to hear from y'all on, is what have you observed in your work, current or past or whatever, that you go, man, we didn't see that coming. We didn't know that would happen. And so I'm also big on that. Well, how do we respond to that? Like, okay, perfect is the enemy of good. Nobody has a perfect plan and perfect business. But when we have an unintended consequence that's maybe, as I say here, harmful, and there's no debate about that, what do we do to resolve that? Especially if it's not illegal. And in my world, in the environmental world, for instance, a lot of stuff is not illegal, but man, it's hard to argue that it's not wrong and harmful to others. So why do we accept that? At Conscious Capitalism, I would submit, cannot accept that if you're true about conscious capitalism. And can you be heroic? Cool thing about the book and the whole notion from, John, in particular, John Mackey, the CEO founder of Whole Foods, is that businesses are heroic. And I agree with that in so many ways. Historically, the stuff that's happened because of creative, incredible humans, products, and services and whatever from business has done amazing things for our world. So I love the idea of being heroic, but that's a high bar, and I'm okay with that because I like that. But how can you claim being heroic, if business as usual omissions, not emissions, you're not aware of, and unintended consequences that have issues with others. And then the other bit here is on tenet 2 is the stakeholders. And what I love is that in chapter 10 of the book, so this has been here all this time with conscious capitalism, is chapter 10, a healthy, vibrant environment, and a section within it, the environment as a stakeholder. Amen. I just don't think it gets as much airtime as many other stakeholders like shareholders or customers or suppliers or employees and workers and cohort colleagues. So anyway, I think that the good news is it's always been there. It just hasn't been getting enough attention from us. So I'd love to hear right now from any of y'all that have anything to say about unintended consequences and the ethics of how we deal with waste and pollution in business, because I know we've all seen it and experienced. So anybody
I
have
have something,
Yeah,
Michael. This is
please.
Lauren Law.
Hi, Lauren.
First of all, I want to say hello to Eddie Coker. Eddie, I have not seen you since college, I don't think. And I'm so happy to see you on this call. Is he still on the call?
He is. Hey,
So
Lauren,
awesome.
guess
I
Eddie,
am here.
how are
Hi.
you? Good to see you. Well, I can't see you right
I
now, but it was
love
good to
this.
see you earlier.
Yeah, because I don't know how to
Um,
start my video.
Oh, gotcha. Eddie and I
Okay.
went to SMU together, and he's a great musician. I love seeing you on this. So I hope to see you at a future meeting. Come to the social. Anyway, Michael, in anticipation of this meeting and because of my awareness being built up about the sustainability aspect of conscious capitalism, because I do the communication for all of these events, one day we were getting new chairs for our conference room, and the person that's in charge of that said, if anybody wants these old chairs, take them home. Otherwise, they're going in the trash. And I was like, what? Hold on. And so it was an opportunity for us to put a program into place to recycle and reuse and donate these chairs. So just this morning, somebody from our accounting department hired a U-Haul, took the chairs, the Samaritan Inn in McKinney, and also some computer monitors, because all of that stuff was just going into the landfill and getting picked up and going into the trash. So now our company has been made more aware of the fact that we need to offer these items to companies out there that a lot of nonprofits can't afford to buy computer monitors. They can't afford to buy furniture, and so we're putting that stuff to good use, and we will do that from this point on. So
Amen. And the other thing was, perhaps the original message, Lauren, was somebody needs to decide today if they want the chairs. Otherwise, they're going in the trash. Like, whoa, slow down a minute, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Because this particular person doesn't like any clutter and wants the environment to be clean and all of that. So it's been 3 weeks since I said that, and they got taken today. So she just kind of had to hold off and say, okay, it's going to be a little messy for a minute, but that's okay. We're doing something to help our environment and to help somebody else. So
I find it so interesting what you just said, Lauren, and I'm sure it wasn't intended, but you said this person likes everything clean in the environment, and
in our
yet,
environment, yes,
right? And then
that is
and
interesting. Yeah,
I'm
that's true.
really that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, that is.
right.
I caught that too.
Yeah, that's true. She likes order, law and order. So anyway, it's a good learning moment, right, for all of us.
Yeah,
And
sure.
in the future, she'll probably now call a company when we have computers or monitors. She found a company that she's going to call that will pick them up and then take them and reuse them.
Yeah,
So
that's really great.
win-win.
I have a couple things to add, if I may.
Please. Yeah.
Michael, your graphic that you were saying doesn't really represent pillars. It kind of does if you're looking at it from a bird's eye view.
Okay. There's an artist speaking.
That's brilliant.
Thank you for that reframing, Kevin. Yes.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And the other thing I would say, I go to Recycle Revolution. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it or not. They've been around for a while, just to take my compost, really. But I've mined it a couple of times because I know the owner for materials. Because as an artist, I like to repurpose materials as canvas. I don't buy canvas. So styrofoam is one of my favorites. Glass, marble tile, ceramic tile. Art paper, whatever. And she always has some of the best things. But anyway, they had a t-shirt several years ago that they put out. Hopefully y'all can see this, Recycle Revolution, but it has a quote on the back, and I'll read it to you rather than let you try and read it. It says if a product cannot be reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composted, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. It was a quote by Martin Bork from Berkeley Ecology Center. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll try and take a picture of that and put it in the chat so you can all have the quote. But it's an old shirt, so it's kind of worn out.
That
But
is awesome.
I've always liked that quote very much because it really just needs to be that sensible. How are we producing things, and are they sustainable, or are they going to produce a mountain of trash? And we've been doing the throwaway society for way too long. And we always talk about how it needs to change, but it doesn't. But we should be able to come up with something different because we're clever.
We are clever, and that's really good. You know, the thing that comes to mind, Kevin, sharing that, of course, is fast fashion. It's one of the massive problems, you know, certainly in the developed world, of the way people buy clothes and discard them. And that's the end of the life cycle for a lot of clothes is trash.
Yeah.
No, all the things you read off that shirt, to me, are the ways to have a true life cycle that's you know, legit as a conscious business. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And that's a real problem sector globally, right? Is all the clothes that don't get reused and end up in the trash.
And also just designed obsolescence in general. I mean, it should be made to last if you're buying something and it's not made to last, you throw it away in 3 years and buy a new one. It makes no sense. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you for the share there, Kevin. And that's why I have jeans that are what, I don't know, 17 years old, because well, the jeans are better after 17 years anyway, right? Okay, anything else? Carol's like,
I have
yes.
to know, I have the same pants that I've had since before my kid was born, and he's 18.
Woo!
I still have t-shirts from college and, you know, high school. I think I still have some from high school. That was 30 years ago. So
Mm.
it's a lot. I don't want to jump ahead, because I think the unintended consequences is an important conversation. And so if anyone else has more to add to that, I think that's great. I wanted to give our company a shout out in that we have built our business on the tenets of conscious capitalism, and the environment is one of our stakeholders for many reasons. So we're 100% virtual, which means that our employees don't need to drive to and from work. They don't need to drive to and from their client base. They're, you know, meeting just like this with our clients on a regular basis. We encourage all of our clients to go paperless. We ourselves are as paperless as possible. And I'm a big fan of the remarkable too, so that I, you know, stopped killing all the trees in my thousands of notebooks, but I still really like to take notes. So, you know, I think that, Michael, to your point, it was in the book. It doesn't get talked about a lot, but it is out there.
Yeah, for sure. It is.
And I think as a society, we're getting better.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. And it's your business, by the way. So you get that leadership credit for all those low impact, no impact things you're doing. So beautiful. Thank you. Okay, let me carry on here. And then just real quick on the other parts of other tenets, because this is not Conscious Capitalism 101. We're not going to go deep here, but I just want to, the reason I like to talk about culture and leadership, that's so much the squishy human stuff too, right? Like how we are and how we humans have these theories, and then how we actually practice, and values that are maybe high versus what we're willing to accept. And anyway, so human behavior, you know, we're weird. So let's just, you know, I'll submit that we're weird. And thus, some of the things I note here around fear and mistakes and emotions, like I want to be liked, and I always want to be in the conversation about good things and good news versus hard conversations and accountability, which is the last part. There's accountability is so tricky in life in any aspect 24/7, right? But, you know, again, if we believe that our nature and that our environment where we reside, and that the humans with whom we cohabitate on this planet are legit stakeholders, even if they don't spend a dime with us, then we've got to be thinking about them, and we've got to be accountable to that. And that's back up above here where in the book in chapter 10, businesses must take full responsibility for their environmental impacts and start innovating ways to alleviate them. So it doesn't say, you got to be perfect tomorrow. It just says, look, just admit it, man, and be accountable and say, okay, how can we improve in this area? And I would submit that anybody that's got a good product or service that has got some unintended consequence, that's got some harm in it somewhere, probably all their stakeholders that love their products want to help them figure that out. So engage them to help you figure that out, like Jennifer, perhaps y'all done in your company. So, and so the other thing is, it's not about blame. I could hang out there a lot in the work that I do because of just pollution, right? But let's just go, there it is. I've contributed to it in my life and all that I've done as a consumer in this culture. And let's just be honest about it. Now, how do we do better? And no greenwashing, no bullshit just to make people feel good. Make people feel good by what you do and what you deliver and how you reduce impact or eliminate a certain impact. And as John and Raj call about it in the book, instead of repeatedly saying win, 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 they just came up with wins, capital. So the wins are there. They're totally there. If you've got something good going, you've got people that are going to want to help you improve. So take advantage of that. And then a couple of things just about businesses. I'm curious to know what people think here. And this also came from when Tim Dickey, we had our meeting a couple of months ago and Tim was talking. We were talking about growth requirements of business. It's always kind of driven me mad that if a company's really successful and been around a while and, they have a flat year or they have a flat couple years, but they're still in business. They're still taking care of customers, taking care of team members and colleagues and, whatever. It's like, why is that bad? Why is it that if you're not growing and kicking ass and up into the right hockey stick chart, I don't get that. I really don't. So I don't know if anybody else doesn't get that. And then the other thing is you think about, well, will we spend this money to do X? And in this case today, let's think about something that would have a positive, sustainable, environmental, climate impact. And well, what's the cost benefit of that? And I've been thinking about the language of it. I don't know anybody that says benefit cost. Everybody says cost benefit. And I think it's negative that way. And so my question is, how much of the mindset is just a language? Like, well, our CFO will never approve that because, that's going to take 39 months to pay back. Well, then Michael Martin, because of the work I do, which is long-term solutions, goes, are you not going to be in business in 39 months? What is wrong with 3 months and three years? And you know what I mean? Like, this just drives me mad sometimes. And then this bit here about the extraordinary burden on companies. And that was some political article. You can find that all over the place, the whiners. And I don't like whiners because just take care of your problem and do what's, best for everybody impacted by what you do. And so, and then what about the extraordinary burden on the humans that perhaps your harmful aspects of your business are causing? It's getting to be much more common in our conversations about health and healthcare in America and wellness in America that so much of the illness is because of things we're doing to ourselves and to our fellow citizens, to our neighbors. Nobody, if I asked the question the right way, would say, sure, I'm in favor of that. Nobody would. Okay, then let's just fix it. That's all. No blame. Let's just fix it. So anyway, thoughts or comments about like mindset in business, like we must grow or we suck or we can't make investments that don't pay off in the next quarter. Like, well, why? And then the thinking about people that are hard to imagine that are related to your business, but they are downstream, if you will, whatever. I'd love to hear some thoughts from y'all about any of these things here that kind of drive me mad in the business world.
I hear what you're saying on, this is Marty Gonzalez, that it has to be growth. I would get really upset about that. That was the measure of success, or the measure of success was the revenue. And I'm like, well, revenue is good, but you could be not making money and have a low profit. And you could have a great profit and have a lower revenue. So I would get frustrated with that, because profitability should be more the measure, instead of comparing who's got more revenue.
Mm.
And now, as far as the return on investment and if you get a return in 36 months, it's a practical cash flow issue. I mean, we have to be realistic about managing the cash flow. So that does have to be balanced out.
Yeah. 100%, Mari. I agree that, payback, but I think the notion of how we define payback is a whole nother all day long conversation, right? How are we going to factor in the health of our community and our neighbors? I don't know. It's pretty hard to do on a spreadsheet, but it might have a big impact on your brand value, on loyalty, on what people think about you. And any business says they don't care about their brand value, they're lying, because they do. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because but I think a lot of times it's often just a convenient excuse, as opposed to, we can find some capital that will make that payback over 5 or 10 years, no problem, because in most business cases, the capital's out there and people want to lend it to you. It's just that you don't want to tell your board or your shareholders, well, that's going to pay back in 3 years, because that just doesn't fly very well anymore, my experience. Anyway, what else? Who else has something to share here, if anything? Well, let's talk about heroes then, because I love that whole.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
go for it. No, that's okay.
Okay.
I was going to bring up a hero before I even knew that was going to be your next thing. So look at that.
Okay, go with your hero, Jennifer. I want to hear about it.
There's an entire movement in the accounting space, believe it or not, that I know, I'm telling you. And by the way, very much influenced by Lynn Twist, who I saw you mention on an earlier slide, who was a speaker at our Conscious Capitalism conference that was held in Dallas recently. And it's called the Accounting Alchemy Network. And they're really challenging the accounting industry, which, if you look at your traditional firm, is pretty stuck in the dark ages, right? They're challenging the accounting industry to really understand how they impact as an industry the people and the world and the earth. And as you say, in sickness and in overwork and in stress and in death. And it's, they're aligned with the Pachamama Alliance. They are, it's really just absolutely fascinating. It's just, so it's starting, right? Again, I started to talk about heroes before I realized that was the next thing, but yeah, it's kind of fun.
Well, and it sounds like that's a broader industry movement, right?
Yeah, totally.
Which is even more impactful. I love that. And I'll get to something on that in a minute, but I love you bringing that up. And I think Brian was on here earlier. I don't know if anybody else is LJB. What's the acronym for their business? Anyway,
LJB CPA.
Yeah, because I wonder if they would have something. Is anybody here, one of the LJB people still here? No, because you're talking about their sector, right?
Yeah. Yes, except that their firm is already very much conscious.
Yes.
And understood that before it was the industry norm.
Yeah. Okay.
But the days of the 90-hour work weeks during tax season are numbered, among other things.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, okay.
That's so great to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah. Lawyers and accountants, man, what they go through, especially early in their career, right? Because that's the way it is. The young attorneys, they're going to be worked to death and earn their associate and then earn their partnership. And then they'll continue to work till their grandparents. It's nuts. So that's really cool to hear. And to your point, you're like, wow, the accounting and finance industry doing that. Love to hear that. And so that leads right in. Excellent, Jennifer, to Raj Sisodia first wrote his book before the Conscious Capitalism book. That's how he found out about John Mackey and Whole Foods, right? Was his Firms of Endearment back in, I think 2003 was the original version. I'm not sure exactly, but and so, my question is, some of the companies are noted down there in the box in the graphics. Those endearing firms 20 years ago, how endearing are they now, especially regarding waste and pollution? I will ping Raj and say, hey, can you answer that question, Raj? Let's work on that. How can we assess these endearing firms today, in terms of their interaction with the stakeholder of nature, right? The environment, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to ask him about that. And then, others here that were mentioned in Conscious Capitalism book, or they're well known, and Interface, member in Conscious Capitalism here in our chapter, what was it, a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago, what was the movie? I'm zoning out on the name of it. Less Than Zero, or?
It was Beyond Zero, and it was
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago.
No, was it before
Yes.
COVID? Shoot.
No, but
Yeah.
Michael, it's 2024.
Dude, I can do the math, I know. So, okay.
Yeah.
Whenever it was,
It was
Beyond Zero.
2021.
Okay,
It was
there we go.
21 and it was Beyond Zero.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. He's managing the calendar.
Yeah.
So, but that movie about Interface, which is such a cool film about Interface, is a North Carolina flooring and carpet company that their CEO had a real wake up, aha, like, holy crap, what our overall business is doing to the environment is totally unacceptable. He got cancer. It's just this beautiful human story about where love and soul and care and concern got injected into the middle of the company in everything they do. And they went on this long journey, not quarters, years, to basically get to be a net zero company. And their business was nasty. The way business as usual is done is nasty. If you worked there or you worked on top of their products, the way that shit was glued down, I mean, so the point is, this isn't like, oh, well, that waste and pollution is part of our business. Not true. If it is, let's eliminate that and make you more successful, because there's so many examples of that. I list a few others here that are just current Mars, what they're trying to do around packaging and the waste that they push into the world, because they're a massive global consumer goods company. I submit that without companies like that have that kind of impact on all of us, everybody here has been a Mars customer, guaranteed, somewhere in your life, maybe today, maybe this week, Halloween, sure. And so what are they doing to make us not responsible for all of the decisions around environment and waste? They need to take care of that upstream and eliminate that for us. Patagonia, a little dinky one, Numi organic tea. That's a tea I drink because I'm a weirdo tea drinker. And so, it's little dinky companies nobody's ever heard of. Awesome. But the Marses, the Interfaces, the 3M, UPS, Walmart, man, that's where the action is to make a real difference for us. Anybody else want to comment about such examples, or
Oh,
love to hear more?
This is Maddie again. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
There's a company that makes clothes called Reformation, and they don't tout how much they do for sustainability, which I think even makes them even better, because they're just trying to sell really high quality products. And then if you dig deeper, you find out how sustainable they are. But my daughter introduced me to them because her generation, she's 26, and a lot of the young adults in their 20s are, I remember she taught me what fast fashion was. She's like, Mom, I don't want fast fashion. And the reparation, why she gets it, those dresses are a lot. They're like $200 or $300, but she's like, they're made sustainable, Mom. They're going to last a really long time. And then the other thing she showed me on jeans is that, and a lot of the kids her age are doing is, they're repairing them. They're getting the really good Levi's, the really good jeans, and they're repairing them. They're repairing their clothes. But yes, Reformation is one that is in Dallas, Fort Worth. Support them.
They are. Wow.
They're great. Patagonia, I listened to the story on the founder. I don't know if any of y'all listened on NPR about how they built this. He's got a beautiful story of why he started the company. And it was that he was a very much outdoorsy, mountain climbing. And back before he started the company, you would put the little nails or hooks that you hook onto when you climb into the rocks, and they would break or they would stay. And so they'd mess with the environment, and you'd have to buy more. And he's like, there's got to be something so it's good for the environment. And that's how he started Patagonia. And he said he only has like a few clothes, and he made all his clothes so they could be repairable. And that was the whole reason why they founded Patagonia.
Oh, Yves Chouinard. Yeah, man, awesome. And I've had that experience with Patagonia where my daughter, two of my daughters, by the way, pretty much only go to thrift stores to get their clothes. Awesome. Love that. So I'm proud of them for that. And one of those daughters, when I had a Patagonia sweater that had a hole in it, she says, Dad, take it down to the Patagonia store. They will redo it, fix it, reweave it. And they did. And 3 weeks later said, come get your sweater. Like, boom. So Levi's will do that too. You can take your Levi's to the mall and they'll take your, if they're not completely destroyed, but there's limits to it. But yeah, so and so if we all keep doing business with those folks, they'll be successful and that'll become normal, right? Wouldn't that be a great business as usual? Everybody takes the clothes and repairs them and gives them back to you. And even if they charge me $5, okay, I'll do that. I think most people probably pay for it. It's a hell of a lot less than a new pair of jeans or a new sweater. And, you know, if you're like me, like, oh, my favorite sweater, like, no. So, any other hero stories? When we talk about the good folks and good stories there or anything? Move on. Okay, we're going. All right. What's next here, people? Oh, awareness. Now we're gonna start talking about how conscious are we about this stuff. And you know, waste and pollution. And you know, is it just kind of the way it is, man? It's a necessary trade-off. It's a necessary evil, and it's that or thinking, well, if I get this, then that, you know, as opposed to, and how can we, you know, eliminate the necessary evils and these trade-offs are apparently, well, that's just the way it is. Often it is not. And I forgot where I picked up this quote recently, but this kind of conveyed to me very simply the idea of how can we be aware and think about then investing in systemic change so that they're viable alternatives to how things are done. And I would argue there's not a business on the planet that can't tweak, adjust, radically transform, whichever it needs to be, their systems and how they operate and change their business as usual. In my software life for 25 years, I was very focused on industrial solutions where continuous improvement and all the stuff that came from Japanese efficiencies in manufacturing and distribution production. That was my world for a long time. And so, you know, it is kind of baked into our culture and our business culture that continuous improvement is what we got to do, if not to keep ahead of the competition, just because we want to stay the best. We want to charge a lot of money and make good money and have high value. So it's baked into us, but it sometimes stops at, like earlier when we were talking about the life cycle, it kind of stops at, well, that's when they'll throw it away. Well, no, let's think beyond that. And then, you know, the other thing is in language, and I've got some upcoming info to talk about language as well again here, but you know, there's the whole notion of the mindset of everything, and you know, I think more about, you know, I don't know, the soul set, and what's really, is it just, you know, in our mind and on the spreadsheet? And I say the moonshot mindset. Another fun thing I like to share because it applies in my business of as we're transforming in energy from fossil fuels that are extractive and pollute and waste and are very wasteful and very inefficient system. And those are facts. There's no judgment there, just the way it is. And the transition to a clean energy world that's not extractive, long-term solutions, they emit no waste, blah, blah, blah. And so we have all these great solutions for this massive transformation of how we power the planet. So the good thing is we've got solar and batteries and wind and all kinds of other technologies for efficiencies, et cetera. And I contrast that to 1962. One of my favorite stories is when President Kennedy was at Rice in Houston, down the road from NASA. And he makes this bold proclamation, this big speech, says, we're going to send a man to the moon by the end of the decade. And then down the road at NASA, all those astronauts and engineers are looking at each other and go, what did he just tell the whole freaking world? Like, the point is, they didn't know how to do it. They really did not know how to do it in 62. And they got it done with 5 months to spare at the end of, in July of 69, right? So that mindset was, we don't know how to do it, but we're gonna figure it out. And so where did that come from? That was inspirational. That was from the soul of our leader at the time. I don't know, I'm just making it up, but what's wrong with that mindset? and that soul set in the way we do our work. Why can't we radically transform things and accomplish incredible things? I say we can, but it gets to be scary to people, especially if they're already very successful. I think that let's just keep this baby cooking as it is instead of taking the chance and the risk of dramatically changing our systems or eliminating impacts that we have on those who are out of our stakeholder direct loop, So
Yeah.
anyway,
Michael, I just wanted to give you a quick update. I dropped it in the chat, but on that concept of soul set. So when Ray Anderson of Interface first decided to become carbon neutral, the entire company and all of their shareholders thought he was absolutely crazy.
yes.
He has long since passed away.
Yeah.
However, in 2022, they became the first flooring manufacturer, the only flooring manufacturer to achieve carbon neutral enterprise certification. And the company, beyond, way beyond Ray Anderson, but definitely under his influence, their new mission is to become carbon negative by 2040.
Right?
So it is that
That's
going
phenomenal.
back to that
Wow.
soul set, right? There is absolutely that, they're not going to accept, okay, well, we did it. What's next? Now what?
Wow.
What else can we do?
Well,
That
there you
rocks.
go.
They're on track.
That rocks, guys.
Totally does.
Yeah.
And talk about, I mean, this is in this case super real. Like this outlived Ray Anderson big time, right? He's been dead for, as you said, a long 10, 15 years now. I think. So these kind of things, got to get beyond, you and your leadership and your reign and your time. It's like, what do we do for the long haul? I love those kind of stories. So thanks, Jennifer, for that. What I right here back, I'm glad I backed up here anyway. I'd love to hear any more comments, what y'all think about how aware are we? This is conscious capitalism. I think about the unintended consequence seemingly beyond our business is just often, I don't know, ignored or doesn't get enough attention, or like, well, we'll get to that later. I mean, what do y'all think about that? Or do we just accept those things because that's the way it is? We have to have waste and pollution.
I think that I think that our colleagues in Conscious Capitalism, I think they probably think about it. I think that there's nothing wrong with us continuing to talk about it so that more people think about it. And I love hearing your background, that you were in software and the continuous improvement and Jen talking about what's changing in accounting and lawyers and the hours and working and Mike, that's my passion of why I started Heart of a Servant Leader Consulting was that I see all these productivity improvements and all these things. And I'm like, how can we apply it so business can be profitable, yet you can have this amazing positive impact? You can have capacity to volunteer in the community, have capacity to take care of yourself and take care of your clients profitably. And in that volunteer in the community, guess what? Hopefully lots of people have the heart to help all these organizations that are trying to take care of the environment. And I could not unmute, but I wanted to give y'all another hero that we can support in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that does 100% of reduce, reuse, and recycle, half price books. And they were started in Dallas, Texas, in Lover's Lane off in a laundromat. Now they're all over the country. And the reason they were started was because they loved books, but they were done reading them and they wanted them to go to new homes. So everything is recycled. I mean, you sell it to them. They sell them to somebody else that wants to love them, and if they can't be used, they give them away free to teachers, and if they can't be used, they still make sure the paper's recycled. So it is 100% reduce, reuse, and recycle anything you take to half price books or buy from half price books.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna guess all the locals here, and as you said, half price books is in a lot of the places in the country. I'll bet damn near everybody here has traded with them before. I know that is always where I go to get a book. And then take books that I don't want to keep, like for instance, this needs to stay in my library. Okay. But other books do not, novels do not. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Mari. They're such a great example. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to add, I think that it's kind of a cultural thing too. I think as a society, we've gotten so used to trash. I mean, littering still happens, which blows my mind. I'm just like, really? But just also like the single use stuff. People are so used to that. I mean, the Keurigs for coffee. When I go to a coffee shop, I always take my own cup. But since COVID, several places won't take your cup to put the coffee in it. They would give you a paper cup. I was like, that kind of defeats the purpose. I can just pour it in my cup. Yeah, but you've wasted a cup that you're not going to reuse. Can you pour it in a pitcher for me and pour it into my cup? And they're like, no, we can't do that. I'm just like, and so it's like, kind of almost like the cultural thing where we just got to get it through our head that that single use throwaway, and I mean the microplastics, I mean, don't even get me started on that. Like the covers, like the seals on everything, that's been overdone. And it's all this miniature trash that's still trash. And it's so prevalent. And so as a society, we have to figure that out, I think, would be my addition.
I'll jump in. I think we're well and truly, I think everyone's conscious. I think the consciousness of those items and everyone sees it and it's like, ugh. I think that concept is generally accepted, but I think where we're at is it's become necessary evils and everyone's becoming more and more comfortable with it, right? Is that everyone passes it off as necessary evils too easily. And they just see that the need for change is too hard at this point, or how do you get it right? And so it's going to take more of these moonshot mindsets, because it's like turning the Titanic. We're so far down the wrong path that it is going to take so many more people with these moonshot mindsets to get rid of that. Yeah, but what's the solution? Everyone's sitting here like, yeah, I get it, that's bad, but I can't change how Starbucks serves their coffee, right? It's like, well, yeah, I don't know. I just think that everyone's more in an accepting and, what do I do phase than really, I didn't know that was bad. You don't have those conversations anymore, right?
Yeah, Blake, I appreciate you sharing that. And Kevin, you and I are the same dude when we show up at a cafe or a coffee shop. Like I'm gonna call somebody out because I think it's also important. I'm gonna get to this in a minute. Call people out. La La Land is super popular. Everything's the most beautiful local coffee shop. And I'm sorry if anybody here is involved with them. I just know what I know, and I'm going to share my experience. It's all about, they have all these beautiful, kind messages. And like, they have a hat that says, something about loving, and they have another one that says, don't be a fucking something, So they're trying to have this great heartfelt image, and yet they sell mugs, but you cannot get a drink there if you're sitting there and staying there to trade with them. You cannot get it in one of their mugs. You must take a piece of trash. They don't have to do that. So I do not go there anymore. And to the Starbucks message, Shelly, you put in, Starbucks always have it if you ask. I have never heard a Starbucks person in 20 years going there say, are you staying here? Would you like that in a mug and a saucer? No, they never ask, but they always give it. But I have to initiate. It's all on me. It's all on y'all. And this is
I was at a coffee shop this weekend. This is how baffling it is. I ordered a hot latte. My wife ordered a cold latte. And they said, are you here or are you going? We're saying here. They ordered the hot one in a mug, but the cold latte in a plastic cup. And she's like, well, glass? And they're like, yeah, we can give it to you in glass if you ask. We're like, why? Why do hot in a mug but cold in plastic? It was,
well, they got it half right. Blake.
we're halfway
yeah,
there.
but I know exactly. Knowing Rebecca, I get that. You guys are like me. So, but we can do that. But this brings up for me, which I don't specifically have in here, and this is a strategy. It's been around for quite a while, which is it becomes the whole in my field, right? The carbon footprint of Michael, of Blake, of Kiara, of Carlos, of Brianna, of Mari, of Jennifer, right? It's all on us. It's our carbon footprint. You need to reduce that. That was a brilliant strategy created in the 70s by the oil and gas industry. Let's make sure, in the petrochemical industry, let's make sure that we come up with this way to identify how much this consumer is negatively impacting the earth with the choices that they can't even make because we force them to accept things this way, right? Super brilliant, but horribly wrong in my opinion, because we're all talking about our own individual actions, which Starbucks, oh my gosh, when will they start just telling their baristas, are you staying here? Great. We'll give you a mug. Is that cool? You can be here to drink your drink? Cool. We'll give you a mug. How their impact, Starbucks. Oh my gosh. Anyway, enough of that. Russ, go ahead.
I was just going to add one quick thing
Sure.
that adds a layer of complexity to all this stuff that we're talking about, because I've experimented with bringing my own stainless bowl to a salad place, saying make your salad, but it is the health code violation. And so a lot of what we're talking about is not just getting them to do it a different way. It is, it is convincing the local city and your city council person and or the municipality to get our health code,
Sure.
our health enforcement to think in a more sustainable way, to allow for that, because
Sure.
it's also allowing, and we need to be mindful of that. And how do we approach this kind of from all different sides? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's another component to that,
yes,
unfortunately, is that this society has become unbelievably litigious. You bring your own bowl in, you get salmonella. Who do you blame? No, I'm not saying you would, Russ. I know.
No, exactly right. Well, all I'm saying is it's not just the individual stores.
It's not.
What they're being forced to comply with, because we don't do a good job from a holistic standpoint when we talk about, all around, what are the forces that are influencing it? It's not just culture. It is regulation, and it is things beyond that. So I was just going to add.
No, that's a good point that you brought that up, because that's what I was thinking. Because I remember during COVID, Starbucks stopped doing where you could do the cup, and it was because of COVID, so people weren't getting sick. And so I think it's kind of a moonshot thought, is moonshot thinking as well, as for them to think, how do we keep the community safe and be sustainable, and we got to think about not getting other people sick.
I mean, that alone, the regulation that goes behind it. I mean, Michael and I, obviously being in the building industry, it just put it in the code. We all want to do it, but there's some people that go out there, and if we want to do it, but then it doesn't pencil on the back end, you're like, okay, you've now got a failed asset or a failed, right? You don't get the return on the rents. And so if we don't all go together, then there's going to be people out there cutting corners. I mean, you're left holding the bag on these properties that won't survive. So we all got to go together, and the only way to go together is by meeting code.
Yeah.
Well, and Blake, that's certainly the perfect, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So let's go together, man. I mean, then that's getting back into Lynn Twist stuff about collective abundance and versus scarcity and blah. Yeah, come on, man. So
I want to give a shout out to another hero. So for those of you who are not able to attend the Conscious Cap Dallas conference, another hero that we were introduced to is a social entrepreneur who has built her career on finding different solutions to waste and pollution, primarily with feminine products, quite frankly. How do you reduce the use of toilet paper? How about a bidet? How do you reduce the use of menstrual feminine products? You make washable underwear that absorb the same things. And her newest latest venture is, and Michael, I thought of it because you mentioned the microplastics. They are manufacturing diapers, baby diapers, out of a petri dish made mushroom, right? To mimic what the environment does, the natural society, natural forest environment does. There's no better fertilizer for these mushrooms than baby poop. So instead of filling the landfill, when these bags of diapers go into the landfill, they're actually eating the plastic in the landfill.
Yeah.
Super cool. I'll drop a link to her Wikipedia just because or her website actually. It's absolutely fascinating what you can do when you ask the question, when you think, Michael, what's possible?
Yeah. Right. 100%. That's a great one. I remember when she presented in May, that was super cool to hear all that.
Yeah, my favorite was when she made all the men in the audience squirm. Get over it. You all came from one. We can talk about them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sure. Oh, that's so fun. No, this is great stuff. I'm having fun. This is really a great conversation, y'all.
Yeah, and Jane, thank you for the shout out. I agree completely. It is such a compelling conversation. Michael, thank you for bringing this to the forefront. And yes, more of this.
More of this. Okay, so more recently, Raj was at the May conference as well as John Mackey was. It was so great to hear them, have him be with us and to share with us. And then after, Raj touched on this a little bit, but then he did another webinar a week or two later, and I was really captivated by what he's doing now. And I don't know enough about it. Maybe some of y'all do. I'd love for you to chime in, but this focus on healing. And as he says, we all need to be healers now because there's lots of health issues that need healing, and we can all participate and contribute in some way, especially businesses. And so I love that's now, if it's not been conscious and clearly taken as a responsibility you have as a business now, he's certainly saying you need to. I love that idea. But man, wow. I'm sorry. In my whole business career, no senior leaders ever said, well, we need to be in the healing business in our industry of accounting or whatever. Right. But we gotta back away from our limited constrained thinking and get back to how does this all work together? How's this all tying together, and how we all interconnected, and the whole bit here that it's in the corporate closet, right? The desire to unleash the capabilities of organizations in this way to have more positive impact and improve things that have been unintended negative consequences historically. And I love this notion of unexpressed love and silent suffering. Let's let that out, man, because all our companies and where we've ever worked or will work, it's people. So yeah, I love this idea that it's in there. And then his healing oath, man, I've been telling this to people ever since I saw him in May, which is okay. Don't do any harm, and you got to be really step back, not your nose up against the tree. What's happening in your forest, and what impact are you really having? You can't do that harm any longer. Okay, how can we fix that? Second is big one for me: root out evil. Which means if you see it, call it out. If you see it, say something, do something. Don't just turn that, not my problem. It's not illegal. It's such a rationalization at a soul level that is, hey man, I've done plenty of that in my life. I guarantee you. So I am as guilty as the next person. But I try to be aware and pay attention. And I think if we could all work on that, then we could say, hey, what you're doing there has kind of got this problem, this unintended consequence. Why don't we try and eliminate that? And so accountability is a huge thing, I believe. And then finally, the whole language of, talking about love and business, right? And joy. I'm hearing that more and more and more now in all kinds of business contexts. I'm really excited about that because now we're just going to be more human, instead of neck up humans and spreadsheet humans and, presentations and crazy financial model humans. Man, we're good at that shit. Let's focus on getting better at bringing our love and our honesty and our accountability and our collective mindset and souls to solve these things. And I love this healing oath. And like I said, anyway, I know some of y'all are familiar with this. I'd love to hear any comments y'all have about what Raj is doing here and what your exposure has been to what he's saying or what he's reading and putting out there. I'd love to hear more about it because I need to learn more about it. Anybody? Okay, let's get Raj down here to help us on that.
I don't know much about him. This is the first I've heard of him, but I think it's interesting because I mean, you talk about the health of people, and I would think like the cognitive dissonance that takes place in the people that are in those corporations that are doing things that are not good for the environment has to be very difficult for them to like keep in their head and feel like good people.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that to your point, Kevin, if those people can know that expressing that, not only the recognition of what the issue is and the problem that they don't feel good about, and then giving them the freedom or challenge to go, how do we fix it? So it's not about blame, it's about improvement and better and no harm. Blame isn't going to do us any good, but yeah, so right on with what you're saying. Thank you.
Michael, from a corporate perspective, I'm actually seeing a shift underway towards uh, employee well-being, and I think that there's a general trend towards doing the right thing. It's not for everyone, but it's happening. And Patagonia is held up as a model. Many of the companies that were mentioned here are held up as, models as well. But there's talk now about OKRs and KPIs not being at the expense of humans. And we're seeing books coming out like Human First, Leader Second, or Compassionate Accountability. Those are both excellent books. So I think that there's a shift happening, and I think compassion has to come first. When people get the idea of compassion in the workplace, compassion towards themselves, compassion in life, then I think the sense of social responsibility is going to follow because, from an individual perspective, we've got this notion of diffusion of responsibility, right? Where people feel less pressure to act because someone else is going to do it, so they don't feel as guilty when no one's watching, or they just don't feel as guilty when they do nothing to contribute to the situation. So I feel like as compassion increases, sustainability and the idea of generativity will have a foundation to stand on. So I'm actually hopeful.
100%. I appreciate you sharing that, Kauder, because I am too.
As
And so
well.
that I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it, I'm just feeling it. So yeah, let's so all of us here we all have the chance to do something to contribute to that. So yeah, wonderful. Jennifer, just doing the heart, or you got something else to add there, my dear? Okay, awesome.
I'm just agreeing. I think there really is this shift happening,
Yeah.
and not just in the entrepreneurial. I mean, very much in the entrepreneurial world, but not just in the entrepreneurial world. So, as an example, because she's from Dallas, you may know her. But Ann Chow, who is the former CEO of AT&T Business, she ran. I mean, she was like, I think the largest P&L ever run by a woman, or something like that for the longest time. And she just published a book called Lead Bigger. And it's about inclusion and compassion and all of the ways that really created an environment in AT&T that,
Yes.
I mean, people just loved. She's an amazing leader and a beautiful human. So I haven't read it yet, but I can tell you I recommend it anyway.
Yeah.
Lead Bigger by Ann Chow.
Yeah. She and Cent Marshall. Cent was at AT&T before Mavericks, right?
Yeah,
So
and in fact, Cint gave her. She's one of the so for, Stephen Covey, Cint Marshall, and I can't remember who the other one is. Are like the accolades for her book.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ooh.
she's an amazing human.
Okay.
So yeah,
Let's get her to come hang out with the chapter sometime.
Yes.
Where's Elise? She's not here today. Put Elise on that. She'll get her. Okay. So here's the other thing I will say, because what's coming up with me when y'all are talking about this is I think the rise of women leaders, huge freaking impact, right? Father of 4 beautiful daughters. I love to share that, as I tell everybody all the time. There they are, right? These beautiful young women in their 20s, right? And the women you're talking about. I think our future is absolutely brighter with more women, where historically it's only been a bunch of guys like me. Meh, that's not going to get us anywhere. It's just not. So yay, I'm glad it's just funny, your examples y'all are bringing up about these women leaders, and that's fantastic.
Wait a minute. Jamaica just dropped a note in, and it looks like Jamaica works at AT&T. So tell us something about Ann Shao.
Come on, Jamaica. I know Jamaica. I'm glad you're here, my dear.
Did anything I say resonate? Am I right?
She may be in a place where she can listen, but not
putting her on the spot. Yeah.
Jump in. I'll hit her up about that later. Anyway, that's great. So yes, my friend Jamaica came and she works for AT&T, and look at that. Look what happened. Okay, let's see. Wait a minute. Did I okay. Oh, just here's the thing. The other good thing is, whether it's your company, your business, people you know, you don't have to figure this stuff out on your own. To my point earlier, we already know what to do when it comes to waste and pollution. Sure, in any given company, there's specific things that are tricky. You got to figure out how to reduce or eliminate that. But look, there's so many people at this now. So that's, to Kiara's point earlier, I'm feeling good about it. I'm optimistic. I think our trend is good. I want the chart to go faster and more steeply, right? I think acceleration and more broad is what we need to do, because we can. And so there's business groups, there's government groups, and what I'll say here is that, and I was delighted to hear this on some webinar I was on sometime this week, about, listen, everybody, we got to quit complaining and bitching and moaning and asking government to solve things. And that's true. Now, regulations are important, but theoretically, if businesses honestly and accountably took stock of all of their impact and all their unintended consequences, we wouldn't need regulations, right? We just wouldn't need them. But that's not going to happen tomorrow. So we got to have regulations. But, you know, the unintended consequences of the pollution and the toxicity in our planet and all that's affecting some of y'all here, perhaps people you know and love, the White Rock Lake near where I live, you know, those things we can address. And we most of those things have happened because of the commercial sector and private sector, not because of government, right? They haven't done these things. They've tried to constrain these things, but of course in our culture, regulations are bad. So I agree. Let's get rid of regulations and insist that businesses operate like conscious capitalists, 100% 360 every day in every single way. We get there, we're going to be good. So, so let's see. Yeah, does anybody know about any of these groups or want to make any comments about maybe where your company's plugged in? Because I just put a little note here by industry, like the Sustainable Furnishings Council. There's an awesome American Furniture, I think it is, down in Dallas, a big leather manufacturing company. They're a big player in the Sustainable Furnishings Council. Great. They're working to get to net zero and all that, right? So it's happening all over by industry, the accountants we heard about. So, you know, you got people to help you figure this out, because you're not going to be the first. So anything to share here, anybody? Russ?
One quick thought about the government side, and I know we tend to think about, or we're conditioned to think about them as a far off entity, because we're all business people operating in this space. But I'm doing some writing in this area, and I'd like to remind everybody that government is us. Government is not someone else or some other entity. In fact, even more so than business, because we all have a vote, all the way down to our local city council people. And I'm serving on I live in Fort Worth, and I'm serving on the 2050 Community Advisory Committee. And they were talking about how what do we want Fort Worth to be? And the issue I brought up was more sustainable. And when I think about just simple things like we're talking about, government to me is a lot more about incentives, right? It's incentivizing what we want to happen. So, for instance, I'll give you a case in point. Why, in the city I moved here from, we used to, you pay for trash pickup and then you pay extra for recycling. And I don't understand that. That makes, we ought to charge extra for trash pickup and all recycling ought to be for free. Right?
There you go.
And it's what we're in, like, yeah. And that government is us. We're not asking our elected leaders who we elect to, we're not framing the issues properly. So I would just encourage us all when we're having any conversations, and most of it's local neighborhood. I serve on our local neighborhood advisory board, or local city council, local city. Get them to start thinking and framing incentives in a more sustainable and better and healthy way. And I think that will start to,
Amen, Russ.
I love
Russ,
that, Russ. And I'm with you on that. Mike, I heard you say not having regulation and getting people to behave in a certain way. But in reality, I mean, I think we need the regulation, but in looking at it in a positive way, the beauty of the regulation is then it allows a new business or a business in a different industry, it allows us to pass on wisdom and lessons learned. So they know if I do this, this, and this, it makes an impact. And so and it gives us a way to hold people accountable to it. We don't want to over-regulate it, but I think regulation is good because it'll give us the rules. And to what Russ said is if we act as the we of government, we will help make practical guidelines, but we're sharing our wisdom to make a difference.
Beautiful. Yes, it's so funny. I serve on City of Dallas Environmental Commission, and that's the citizen volunteers that help the city and the environmental office and blah, 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 try and implement our climate action plan and support them, because I'm an energy guy and we have a water guy and we got, all these different people that do their thing to support the city on the climate action plan. And so I've gotten a real taste of how the city works, and that's challenging. But here's a cultural statement about Dallas that you Dallas people will probably get it, right? In Dallas, we only do incentives. We do carrots, no sticks. It's like, okay, I get that. And I'm a parent. All right. So I understand carrots and sticks, but to say that you never implement and utilize a stick is, come on, that's just nuts. But in Dallas,
they issue fines. They fine people. So that to me is a stick.
Yeah. And it's a little tiny fine that's already baked into the cost of doing business. Like when you remove a tree, they've already budgeted for that fine and they don't give a shit. So, but let's incentivize them I agree, incentives, but that's a whole nother challenge to do that. So great point, Russ. And so, I'm doing what I can being involved in my city. And I know a lot of y'all are too. And that's the thing to do is, however, I'll just stop here, but our state government, of course, won't let us do things like ban plastic bags in Dallas. They have made that illegal. So our city's terrified to do anything like that. And they've done things in my sector around clean energy that limits what a city can do and cannot do, which they love small government until they don't, right? So anyway.
Welcome to Texas.
Shut up, Michael. Okay.
Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, Jennifer, you're not off. You're not
Jennifer, but we got to keep voting. We got to keep voting. It's purple now.
Listen, you're talking to never mind. Yes, awareness. Michael, thank you. Wrap up. Let's do this. We got 6 minutes.
Woo. Okay. So awareness, discussion and ideation. And then, let's do stuff, right? There's the talk and then there's the walk, right? And so, I just think that on this topic that we have talked about, and this has been really fun. I have loved this. I will do this anytime any of y'all ever want to do this, because people that know me said I jump into any conversation that's about this stuff. Because for me, what motivates me is if I can help anybody learn anything that will then have a positive intended outcome, because of it's going to impact waste and pollution, like buying less dirty power because they're running their building on solar on the roof, yay, then that's all I need, man. That's my motivation. So I appreciate you guys. So I am not perfectly conscious on this. I have lots of blind spots myself. I'm happy to try and learn, however, what they are. And same with all of us in our businesses, getting more conscious. And you know, to Kiara's point earlier, and others have said, look, man, I'm optimistic about this deal. I just know we can go bigger, better, and faster. And I want us to do that because I came out of the tech industry and that's just how I roll. And because it's got such, and the good news is it's not one of these things, well, these folks are going to then win and these folks are going to lose. That is fear thinking. But the good news about so much of this stuff is that everybody really does win, win, win. It's so valuable. These kind of sustainability, regenerative strategies, et cetera, they make companies more successful financially. They make them more successful in terms of their brand value. They increase loyalty. They do less harm to their community, including the citizens. You know, so it's like there's no loser in this deal. You know, like we have that mindset though that, damn, what's that going to cost us, and can we afford that? No, man, you're going to kick ass if you do these things. So, and that's proven, and that's where guys like Raj are the experts in that, right? Like, let me give you 97 examples of companies that have improved on all the key metrics since they did X, Y, and Z, right? It's not a weird thing anymore, but it's definitely not usual business yet. So I'm half full. I think most of y'all are too. It's been fun to visit with y'all and this conversation together. I'm glad we recorded it. I will listen to this again.
Oh, hell yes.
I've learned some good stuff from each of y'all, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, Jennifer and Lauren and everybody that invited me to do this, and for putting up with my bringing this up for the last 19 years about not that long.
Listen, it is definitely overdue, Michael, and just so that you can give proper credit to where credit was due, it was Shelley and Elise who finally, and me for pushing the quarterly lunch and learns, I guess.
These are great. Well,
yeah.
Well, thank you. And you know, here's a good example. These are new, right?
Yeah.
We didn't used to do these. Wow, what a way to continuously improve conscious capitalism and how we can be together, learn from each other, right? We're just living it.
What a perfect segue to, if you notice in the chat, please, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. Michael, this was an incredible, eye-opening, and beautifully facilitated conversation. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
It really, really do. If you are in Dallas-ish, Dallas-Fort Worth, local, please join us on the 25th of September to our Conscious Capitalism September member social. Contrary to its title, you don't have to be a member. We would love for you to join us. We will be at the meeting place in Farmers Branch. If you haven't been to the meeting place, you have to come check out the Zen Room. It's amazing and designed by another Conscious Capitalism member. It is the super cool space. And then we will be at Code Launch, supporting the Code Launch team and also doing our ambassador sponsor panel at Code Launch this year. It is at Gillies South Side in downtown Dallas. If you've not experienced Code Launch yet, you are missing out. Incredible opportunity to witness some brilliant entrepreneurs who are not tech entrepreneurs, who get gifted, if you're in the finals, 48-hour hackathon, basically, or 24-hour, I don't even remember, where you get a free dev, like a free dev team, and then you compete for your idea. It's kind of like Shark Tank, but better. Half audience judged and half judged, and it is so cool and so exciting. And Improving, who now owns Code Launch, they're the epitome of conscious capitalism, right? Giving back to these young entrepreneurs and helping them really launch their trajectory in this world. So it's really exciting and a huge party and lots of fun. And the
Mhm.
CCD, our ambassador panel is going to be an incredibly eye-opening event, which I'm psyched that we're joining that with Code Launch this year. And then thank you, Kim, for dropping our membership link. If you are not yet a member of Conscious Capitalism Dallas and you'd like to join, that is also in the chat. Some of you asked for Michael's information. That is also in the chat. We are so grateful for you being here. And on that note, it is exactly 1 o'clock. And I appreciate all of you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Be well. Have an
Thanks,
awesome
Michael.
day.